How did an heir chosen by Augustus become the greatest rival of his own imperial family? What led Tiberius, Rome's second emperor, to clash with the legacy and descendants of the man who shaped the empire? When Augustus chose Tiberius as his successor, it seemed Rome was destined for a smooth transition. However, behind the palace doors, intrigue, jealousy, and rivalry turned what should have been continuity into a power struggle. While Augustus tried to consolidate his dynasty, Tiberius, despised by many and tormented by his past, became a symbol of resentment and tension. This story isn't just about politics or power. It's about ambition, betrayed loyalty, and the struggle for identity in the shadow of a giant like Augustus. Tiberius wasn't just the heir to the throne. He was a man caught between duty and a deep desire for independence, confronting descendants whom Augustus considered more worthy than him to rule Rome. But what sparked the feud between Tiberius and Augustus' family? Why did the relationship between the successor and the first emperor's descendants turn into a battleground? And to what extent did Tiberius' choices shape the future of the empire? The answers to these questions reveal a hidden side of Roman politics, where power came with an unimaginable cost. Today's video explores the family intrigues that pitted Tiberius against the Augustus dynasty. Discover how jealousy, betrayals, and strategic decisions shaped the conflict that shook the foundation of the Julio-Claudian dynasty and what it meant for Rome's destiny. If you want to dive into the complex family and political relationships that determine Rome's future, like this video and subscribe to the channel. By doing so, you help us bring more fascinating stories like this one to the world and keep the legacy of the greatest empire in history alive. When Augustus named Tiberius as his successor, it seemed like the logical choice to ensure the stability of the empire. Tiberius was a seasoned general, a capable administrator, and a member of the imperial family by marriage. But behind this seemingly harmonious decision lay a complex web of personal insecurities and political rivalries. Tiberius wasn't Augustus's first choice, nor his second. He only became heir after the tragic deaths of Augustus's preferred successors, his grandsons Gaius and Lucius. This, coupled with Augustus's apparent coldness toward Tiberius, set the stage for a volatile dynamic within the imperial family. Tiberius's rise to power was fraught with resentment. Despite his accomplishments, he always felt like a placeholder, a man expected to maintain the empire until Augustus's true bloodline could flourish again. Augustus himself reinforced this perception by elevating his grandsons to positions of prominence, even as Tiberius fulfilled his duties with unwavering efficiency. This treatment gnawed at Tiberius, feeding a deep well of bitterness that would only grow once he took the throne. How could a man thrive under the shadow of a legacy that never fully embraced him? Adding to this tension was Tiberius's reputation for aloofness. Unlike the charismatic Augustus, Tiberius was introverted and often awkward in public settings, which only alienated him further from the Roman elite. His strained relationship with Augustus's widow, Livia, also played a crucial role. Though she was Tiberius's mother, Livia's manipulations in court often worked against him, favoring Augustus's descendants from his first marriage. How much of Livia's influence was aimed at helping Tiberius, and how much of it was about securing her own place in history? The cracks in Tiberius's relationship with Augustus's descendants began to widen as political pressure mounted. Augustus, determined to solidify his vision for Rome, frequently undermined Tiberius's autonomy, forcing him to conform to decisions that didn't align with his own beliefs. This dynamic not only eroded Tiberius's confidence, but also sowed the seeds of rebellion within the imperial household. If the chosen heir couldn't secure his place in Augustus's vision, what did this mean for the future of Rome? But what was it about Augustus's other descendants that ignited such rivalry? Were they truly more suited for leadership, or was there something deeper at play? This brings us to the intricate web of contradictions that define the Julio-Claudian dynasty. Tiberius found himself in an impossible position. He was tasked with upholding the empire built by Augustus, while simultaneously contending with the legacy of Augustus's favored descendants. These young men, celebrated for their charm and ambition, symbolized the future that Rome desired, an idealistic continuation of Augustus's reign. Yet, their untimely deaths left Tiberius to bear the weight of an empire mourning the what-ifs of an unrealized destiny. How could Tiberius live up to a dream that never came to fruition? The contradictions didn't stop there. While Augustus's descendants were revered for their promise, they lacked the experience and discipline that Tiberius brought to the table. Augustus himself had often criticized Tiberius for his reluctance to lead, yet it was this very reluctance that made Tiberius a thoughtful and pragmatic ruler. His governance was marked by caution and efficiency, a stark contrast to the youthful exuberance of his predecessors. In many ways, Tiberius represented the stability Augustus had worked so hard to establish. So, why was he still seen as an outsider in his own dynasty? The court politics of the era only deepened these divisions. The Senate, a crucial pillar of Roman power, was split in its loyalties. Some senators admired Tiberius for his military success and administrative acumen, while others resented his lack of charisma and his rigid demeanor. Meanwhile, members of the imperial family manipulated these divisions, aligning themselves with whichever faction served their personal ambitions. Did these power struggles reflect genuine concerns for Rome's future, or were they simply the manifestation of greed and envy? Even the Roman public had mixed feelings about Tiberius. Many viewed him as a necessary, if uninspiring, choice, a stark contrast to the magnetic Augustus. But this perception overlooked the complexity of Tiberius's position. He wasn't just battling the expectations of an empire. He was also wrestling with his own insecurities and doubts. How could one man embody both the pragmatism Rome needed and the vision Augustus had promised? These contradictions began to spiral into open conflict, as Tiberius's authority was challenged not just by external forces, but by his own family. As the descendants of Augustus grew older, their ambitions clashed with Tiberius's vision for the empire. But were these clashes inevitable? Or were they the result of deliberate manipulation by those who sought to exploit the fragile dynamics of the Julio-Claudian court? While Tiberius held the title of emperor, his grip on the court and its politics was far from secure. Augustus's grandsons, Agrippina the elder and her children, became the focal point of opposition to Tiberius's rule. Agrippina, the widow of Germanicus, Rome's beloved general, and a man many considered the true heir to Augustus's legacy, embodied a vision of Rome steeped in heroism and idealism. Her charisma and the loyalty she commanded among her supporters began to cast a shadow over Tiberius's authority. Despite their familial connection, Agrippina viewed Tiberius with open disdain. She saw him not as a protector of Augustus's vision, but as an usurper who lacked both the bloodline and the ambition to carry the dynasty forward. This disdain turned into outright hostility as Agrippina and her allies maneuvered to undermine Tiberius's rule. Rumors of plots and conspiracies spread like wildfire, many of them implicating Agrippina in schemes to elevate her son to power. How much of this was true, and how much was the result of the paranoia that permeated the imperial court? Tiberius, for his part, grew increasingly reclusive, retreating to the island of Capri to escape the tensions of Rome. From this remote sanctuary, he governed the empire through intermediaries, notably Sejanus, the ambitious head of the Praetorian Guard. Sejanus exploited the growing rift between Tiberius and Agrippina, using it to consolidate his own power. He played on Tiberius's insecurities, painting Agrippina and her sons as threats to the stability of the empire. How much of Sejanus's counsel was rooted in loyalty to Tiberius, and how much of it was a calculated effort to control the empire from the shadows? The conflict between Tiberius and Agrippina's family soon reached a boiling point. Public trials, accusations of treason, and a wave of brutal purges decimated the ranks of Agrippina's supporters. These events not only destroyed the remnants of Augustus's bloodline, but also tarnished Tiberius's legacy, painting him as a tyrant who placed his survival above the empire's well-being. Yet, as the dust settled, a new question emerged. Was Tiberius truly the architect of this chaos? Or was he another victim of the political machine he inherited? As Rome reeled from these power struggles, the stage was set for an even darker chapter in the Julio-Claudian saga. What price would the empire pay for the ambition and betrayal that had defined this era? The purges initiated during Tiberius's reign reverberated throughout the empire, leaving a legacy of fear and suspicion that would define the Julio-Claudian dynasty for generations. With Agrippina's downfall and the execution of her sons, Tiberius seemingly secured his place as the unchallenged ruler of Rome. But the cost of this victory was immeasurable. The people of Rome began to question not just Tiberius's leadership, but the very nature of the imperial system Augustus had created. Could a dynasty built on betrayal and bloodshed ever truly endure? As Tiberius withdrew further into isolation, the empire itself seemed to fracture. The Senate, once a pillar of Roman governance, became increasingly impotent, cowed by the Praetorian Guard and the paranoia that defined Tiberius's later years. Meanwhile, the provinces, far removed from the intrigues of the capital, began to suffer from neglect. The very foundations of the empire were being tested, and with no clear successor in sight, Rome stood on the brink of chaos. The personal toll on Tiberius was equally profound. His retreat to Capri became a symbol of his failure to reconcile his role as emperor with his desire for independence. Surrounded by sycophants and schemers, Tiberius became a shadow of the disciplined general he once was. His legacy was overshadowed by the ghosts of Augustus's descendants, whose memory continued to inspire dissent among the Roman populace. Could Tiberius have steered the empire on a different course, or was he doomed by the weight of the expectations placed upon him? Even after Tiberius's death, the consequences of his reign echoed through the halls of power. The empire he left behind was fragile, its leaders consumed by the same cycle of ambition and betrayal that had defined his time on the throne. The Julio-Claudian dynasty would continue to unravel, each emperor haunted by the unresolved tensions of Tiberius's reign. And so, the question remains, were these struggles unique to Tiberius, or do they reveal a deeper truth about the nature of power itself? How far would Rome go to maintain its empire, and at what cost to its soul? If you've just witnessed the rise and fall of Tiberius and the chaos that defined the Julio-Claudian dynasty, you might be wondering, can power ever be secured without betrayal and bloodshed? But what about a soldier who defied fate itself, rising from humble beginnings to become the most decorated military hero of Rome? If you want to explore a story of true resilience and glory, check out my next video on the soldier who defied fate and conquered glory. Discover how Spurius Ligustinus faced overwhelming odds, led with tactical brilliance, and forever changed the course of Roman history. Click here to continue the journey.